Ben, in this task, you must identify any barriers that may prevent you from achieving your personal training goals. Please go to the next slide. Here you've detailed the barriers to exercise that exist. You have detailed the 8 areas required. What you must do now is ensure that the details you've given explain in full. What that means is every time you do a description of what you mean, you must make sure that you are describing how each one actually stops people from exercising. So for every piece of written work you do, make sure you're fully explaining yourself. Check back through this work now to make sure that you've given as much detail as you can. Then move on to the next slide. On this slide you're discussing the strategies that are associated with the barriers previously discussed on the last slide. So what that means is what you would do in order to get around the things that are stopping you, i.e. how each one of these points will help someone overcome the barrier they face to exercise. In order to do this well, you've got to make sure you give examples for each one. You've detailed 4 benefits, enjoyable activities, smarter targets and rewards that would act as strategies. You have missed out 1, which is support and reinforcement. Can you review this particular one and see if you can add it to your work? Remember to give examples for each one where possible in order to better explain your work. When you have completed this task, move on to the next slide. On this slide, you're going to look at your personal barriers to exercise and the strategies that you might use in order to overcome them. On the last 2 slides, you've dealt with general barriers and general strategies. This slide is all about you and the barriers you will face and the strategies that you will use to overcome them. In this column here, you need to identify and describe 4 barriers that you personally may face with regard to sport and exercise. What that means is that things that may affect you personally that might stop you from doing exercise. It's not enough just to detail the word cost. You must give a description of what you mean in here. The same for interested and injury. No money is the same as cost, so you're going to need to select another one for the second box. Remember, you must give a description in the box as to why these are barriers to you. In the second column over here is where you're going to actually detail the strategies that you would use in order to overcome each barrier that you've identified. So, once you've identified cost as your barrier, you've given a description of what you personally mean about that, you then go over to this column over here and you explain, describe what it is you're going to do about that. How are you going to overcome it? Give as much information as you can, stating what it is you're going to do. Remember, you can look back at the last slide to give you some ideas about strategies that you could use in order to overcome each of your examples. When you've completed both columns and therefore completed this slide, email your work to me, save a copy for yourself.